He's James Collins.
He is Alec Cranston, and this is the
Matter of Fax podcast.
The Matter of Fax podcast brings you the unsung heroes, the unsung stories, news and happenings from across our wonderful city that you maybe thought happened but didn't quite know the truth behind.
And get you all in the loop on what's going on, what's to come, and what can we be prepared for. Welcome to episode 12 of season 2, the season finale of our second season of the Matter of Fax podcast. I am here with my esteemed co-host, James Collins. Wow, we are at the end of season 2. It's flown by. We've stayed consistent. We've talked to a lot of really cool people and had a hell of a lot of fun along the way. This is the season finale. We have a very special guest today. We have a bit of a trend with our season finales. That's the hint we'll give you there. We have a very special guest coming on today. A couple good topics, and Insane as the Crane and our classic Reddit roundup. And we're hoping this is going to be a great season finale for all of you viewers, all of our big fans that have been following us since day one before we made it big.
You know, I was
Now
looking at our stats the other day on Matter of Fax stats.com, the dashboard.
Oh yeah.
We have 11 regular listeners now. Did you know
11.
that?
And 11. Do we count as those?
Oh, there's only 9 if you take us away.
And
hang on,
also,
no, the firm have to vet the podcast, so that leaves 8.
I subscribe on Jenna's phone just for viewership.
Your uncle, my brother, and Todd, who we know listens. So that's 6. That leaves 7.
Well, Todd gets free advertising out of this, so
he does. How is his Uber going?
The Uber business is actually it's booming right now. He has a logo that I can show you. Just bear with me here. There it is. Uber Todd.
Uber Todd. How did you do that?
Uber Todd. This is I gotta give a shout out to a friend Cliff Blair. He's a big hockey guy. He's really into hockey. He helps us with my high school team as a timekeeper, scorekeeper. He runs my social media account for Citadel Hockey. And I told him the Uber driver Todd story, and he made this little graphic.
It's like an album cover.
Uber Todd with Todd's actual cell phone number. So boom, boom, boom. Call Todd up for your Uber driver needs. But shout out to Cliff.
Hang on. Okay, wait there. We're going to text your dad and book an Uber. Would he get the joke?
You're going to text him or are you going to call him?
No, I'm going to text. Would he get the joke?
He will. And he responds quick. So while we're talking, he will respond.
Hello, Todd. Any chance?
Saw an ad maybe?
Of an Uber to the airport tonight.
Oh
yeah.
That's great. Are you gonna say like I saw your ad, or like I got your number from Uber or something like that? Say like I got your number from Uber.
Okay, I've just texted him.
Hello, Todd. Any chance of an Uber to the airport tonight? Saw your
All right, we're texting Todd Cranston, Uber Todd, as we go through the podcast.
There we go.
We'll
update you on how that goes. And that'll work, eh? That'll go to his phone?
Oh, yeah, that'll go straight there.
Oh, interesting. I'm excited to see how this goes.
Can I tell you my story of the shitty week I've just had? Because I've had a pretty bad week.
All right. Let's go. Let's hear
it. So you know, but just for the benefit of our listeners. So last Thursday morning, I got up, I stepped onto my deck. It was a beautiful morning. I threw my couch cushions on the chairs, and I disturbed a hornet's nest I didn't know was there. Hornets come out, dozens of I get stung, run in the house, screaming like a 12-year-old. So that's fine, stings hurt.
That happens.
I got a buddy who's a pest controller, got him to come along. By the way, Steve, you still need to invoice me for that. You have not invoiced me. If you're listening, by this point the invoice will be very late, but I'm ready to pay. Anyway, I came into this very studio for their opening party. I felt wonderful. On the drive home, I had this crazy dump of energy. I got into the house. I said to my wife, "I do not feel right. I kind of feel like I'm going to go to sleep." And I felt really bad by that evening. Woke up Friday with the worst feeling of ever. I like COVID times 1,000, it felt like. So I went through the day, didn't feel too good. I had to get a PCR test because I haven't mentioned it on the podcast, but as of February, I'm now a volunteer firefighter, and HRFE require you to vacate all HRM premises for a minimum of 7 days if you show COVID symptoms and you can't otherwise show it wasn't COVID. So I did go for a PCR test, which as a first responder, I'm eligible for. So I went for that. It was no COVID. It was fine. Felt awful. Friday night, the hornet's nest has now been removed. I go down under the deck in the dark and I step on a rusty nail upturned on a 2x4 that I'd left under the deck. I step on it, full weight, full length, goes up, punctures through my foot. So I then wound up in hospital at about 7 o'clock on Friday night. This was 2 weeks ago now. And they said, yeah, we'll get it all, give you a tetanus shot, we'll get it all cleaned out, and then we'll be good. So I got in, waited quite a while. They looked through and they started getting stuff out, and they said, you have got a shit ton of rust and metal still in your foot. So we want to admit you to the QE2 for surgery. We're going to slice down your foot, increase the size of the wound, go in properly, and dig all the metal out. I said, when's that going to be? They said, well, you go in tonight, you'll probably sit around for 48 hours and get in on Sunday. I said, no, that's not happening. What are my other options? They said, well, you can go home. You can discharge yourself. But there's a very good chance he's going to get infected. And of course, who's been to hospital 3 times in my life, I know more than a doctor who trained for 10 years.
Yes, of course.
So I discharged myself from hospital, went home. Monday morning, woke up, foot the size of a football. My foot got infected. So I spent all of last week with the worst, I'm still so tired, to this day, the worst virus I have ever had, with nursing an infected foot, which is still pretty painful. Mm-hmm. So you can send your sympathies by email to halifaxpodcast@gmail.com. It was a pretty shitty week.
That's brutal. Okay, I know what can cheer you up. I know you've had a tough week, 2 weeks. You're on the mend, though.
Oh right? Yeah, and I'm not a wimp.
And that
I
piece
just
of
want
wood
your
and that nail can go.
Did you see the nail? Did I show you the picture?
You sent me a picture. Yeah, you sent me a picture of your shoe too.
Oh yeah, I got a massive blood stain in the bottom of my one shoe. Yeah.
So I'm going to cheer you up with our this week's Insane as the Crane.
Insane as the Crane. Insane as the Crane. Kinda insane like the Crane.
This week's Insane as the Crane, or this month's Insane as the Crane, actually comes to us from Reddit. So a bit of a crossover episode here between Reddit Roundup and Insane as the Crane.
Crossover.
Loblaws is out of control is the name of the username. I just got a text from my dad. 1 sec.
What did he say?
He said, that must be James pulling my leg. LOL. How does he?
Oh.
You should call him with your American accent.
Okay. He says, thanks for considering my number. So sorry, thanks for considering my Uber service. Truro is the shortest run I'm taking at this time. That will work. You keep going.
All right. So this Insane as the Crane comes to us from this account. No, it's a Reddit thread called Loblaws Out of Control. The account name is Palm Tree Bee Knee. Rat's tail was found in a bag of marshmallows at No Frills in Dartmouth. Oh my gosh, man, that is disgusting. It is it is a bag of large marshmallows, no name brand, with what appears to be a rat's tail. Someone said, "We want the whole rat," and then so someone else responded, "Shrinkflation, baby." And then Electrical Bus said, "Squeakflation, more like it." That's a good pun. That's disgusting. Do you think that's a rat's tail? Do you think that actually is what it is? I'm zooming in.
I'm not convinced. I mean, my experience with severed rat tails, I'll admit, it's fairly limited.
In my years working with severed rat
tails in food is limited. I don't know. I mean, it looks more like the mess that would come out the back of a goose. It could be anything, but whatever it is, it shouldn't be in there.
No.
And it's pretty gross. And yeah, if I found that though, I don't know what I would do. Would I buy it and use it against someone? Would I give it to someone?
Try and get like a payout, or maybe buy it, pretend you didn't see it, and just bite the bullet and eat it by mistake.
And then sue them.
Sue.
When I was a student, I worked at Pizza Hut. We had an incident one night where somebody held up a piece of red plastic and said to me, "This was in my food." And we were a little bit skeptical because it went through an oven, and we were like, why is there a sharp piece of plastic in the food? It's red. The cup isn't red. You've got, like, this would have melted inside the oven. So the guy there said to us, well, we either want the bill, we want everything for free, and they had drunk a shit ton of beer, like 6 guys, or we're going to take this, up higher when we leave. So he essentially threatened to sue the company. Our manager wasn't convinced, and he said, well, we're not going to refund you. Going to pay the regular rate. If you have an issue, this is our regional office manager on a regional office number. You can make a complaint to them and go through the process. Anyway, about an hour after they left, we had a phone call from the next city saying, we meant to call you guys earlier. Just to let you know, some folks came into the restaurant yesterday, ate a shit ton of food, drank a shit ton of beer, and told us that they found some plastic in the food. So this was a scam they were going store to store doing,
Jeez.
just trying to eat for free.
Come on now.
So yeah, don't fall for it. By the way, I did converse with your dad. He said Truro's the shortest run he's doing at the moment. So I replied to him and simply said, that will work. Just wanted to experience the Uber Todd service.
Uber Todd. Remember James Mullinger's intro for him? Yeah, but my dad's he's a smart cookie, man, for away realizing that's you.
You can blow the cover, by the way, and I'll just write to him afterwards and thank him for being a good sport.
I will say, ha, 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 ha. Yes, we are recording podcast right now. I feel like an old man saying, like, reading out my text like that.
Yeah, we are recording
We are here recording.
So Alec, you find a severed rat's tail in some no frills marshmallows. What do you do?
Take a picture, put it on Reddit.
Eat them.
Take a picture, put it on Reddit. I'd eat it. I'd eat the rat's tail, and then whatever happens to me happens, and I sue. Make a bunch of money.
That's fair.
My kid's college kid I don't have. But
it's kind of going to change up the average cafe menu because they're like, oh, hot chocolate with marshmallows. Now it's like, I'd like some hot chocolate, please. Sure, would you like whipped cream and rat's tail with that?
Or like when you get a Caesar and it's a bean instead it's a rat's tail.
As I tell my wife when she orders those, you really want to kind of drink a tomato garden?
I actually like Caesars. I don't eat the stuff that comes with it. Like people will be like, oh, I need to grab this thing, eat it up. I don't eat that. I just drink it and
like somebody ran a glass through a pond
and lick the what?
Like somebody ran a glass through a pond and picked up the reeds and the dirty water.
It wouldn't be too bad. What would you do with the rat's tail? You didn't tell me what you would do with it.
With a rat's tail?
What would you do with it?
I do what this guy did. I'd probably generally cause a stink online and try to see if there's any money in it somewhere.
And the best place to cause a stink online is Reddit.
Well, the problem is that if they ever decide to like, I'm suing for this or something, by putting this stuff on the internet, you've destroyed your case. So anything like this, you see these people that they go on to like Talk Bedford, which I seem to come across all the time, being a yuppie, and people there complain about all these injustices, and then they often say things like, and we're going to contact a lawyer. Well, the worst thing you can do if you're going to launch a civil case against somebody is comment about it first online. That kind of stuff, you want to keep it to yourself, keep it quiet, go to your lawyer and get them to do it the right way. Anyway, that was insane as the crane.
So let's get into our
finale Reddit roundup.
Haligonians losing their minds over minor inconveniences.
This one comes courtesy of Beer Slaying Beaver. All right. It is, and we've gone through kind of this before, but this is always good to get people's fresh opinions. This is what is your Halifax hot take. So they say, the hill I will die on is that most of the pizza in the city's awful. The bologna-tasting pepperoni is always between the meat and the cheese, making it an awful boiled cold-cut taste and texture, and half the toppings will want to slide off. I mentioned that in another post and was apparently pretty controversial opinion on pizza. What's yours? So, this is another one of those, what is your Halifax hot take? Before we dive into Reddit, what is your Halifax hot take? I can give you mine if you want, or go after you.
You know what? I should have expected this question, but James, you go first. You tell me what your Halifax hot take is.
What's your My Halifax hot take is that we will never sort our transit issues.
Really?
It's that this city's just going to suck to get around forever. I'm not talking about traffic here. I'm talking about until we move into the European style where we actually interconnect every street with bike lanes. There's no point in having some major thoroughfares with bike lanes on them if you've got to kill yourself to get to them and kill yourself at the other end of them. Light rail, they will never figure out. We will never have, in my opinion, high-speed buses in dedicated bus lanes everywhere like they do in Europe. So my hot take is transit will never be a thing here.
Interesting. My Halifax hot take is we do not have a high enough density of coffee shops in the downtown core.
That's a good point.
There's only, I love the ones we have, but I just find, I don't know why it's so hard. Like a coffee shop, you can go in and you can sit down and do some work. We need another one of those. And every little area seems to be missing. Well, yeah, there's Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons is down on Barrington Street. It's kind of far down, and you don't want to work in there and have your coffee. You want to go somewhere cool. There's a couple spots, but they're kind of closer to the waterfront. But up top, like where the Nova Center is, there's a couple little ones. Anyways, it's a weird Halifax hot take, but I just find I always get so annoyed walking around downtown. I'm trying to kill time. I was downtown early today, and I didn't want to walk all the way down to Queen's Mark to work and then come back up here. I wanted to work somewhere up around this area. And the coffee shops I found were either just so tiny and packed with people. We need more of a lounge coffee shop area.
We do. Well, So out of all the problems, and we'll get to the hot takes in a second on Reddit, some of them do concern Bedford, which I'm an expert because apparently on a home there. But the suburbs are actually the place for good coffee right now. So we've had a number of places open. We recently last week, discovered Lavantic Bakery at Broad Street Plaza.
Oh.
Ironically on Broad Street in West Bedford. And I will tell you now, I have no connection to those guys other than I just demolished some of their baked goods last weekend. The weekend before that. Last weekend I was feeling miserable in bed, generally, being a wimp.
Yeah.
That place is amazing, and it's Toronto-style baked goods, Toronto-quality coffee, just up the street in Bedford. So I agree with you, Alec. I actually think another extension of your hot take is in most cities, the suburbs tend to have the chains. The center of the city tends to be where the great dining and the great coffee and the great bars are. We're kind of reversed in HRM. I think the downtown Halifax generally has poor dining options, in my opinion. Lots of new finicky, high-end, small plate, high-priced places. We need more Gahan houses. We need more old stubborn goats. We need more niches. And
agreed.
I think the further out you go here, unlike most places, the choices get better.
Yes, I 100% agree. I was actually, that was between that and what I said about the coffee shops. And I'll go a step further. There's one guy, DJ Destroyed, had said his hot take, he or she's hot take is that the late night food options are all terrible. And I'll further say that I think Pizza Corner is overrated. I think people make such a big deal about Pizza Corner. I don't know if that's going to get me...
Okay, we got galleries waving. Yes. Okay. Yeah. The production team at Podstart. Oh, you can weigh in. Come and join us, Connor.
Hey, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Great to be here. I got to agree. I've been living in the city for a long time, and Pizza Corner has been on a very, pretty steep decline, I think.
I mean, topographically, 100%. Literally.
Also, yes.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep decline, particularly when you're drunk.
I think it's time for a hard rebrand for Pizza Corner, being that 100%. One of the three properties actually serves pizza now.
Yeah,
God.
And the pizza, it's. I'm not knocking.
I've never been.
I'm not knocking the place or anything because it does taste good sometimes, but it's just pizza, and they just happen to be there. And there's poutine, there's different options, but I think it's heavily overrated. We need a place, and everyone's always hanging on the street. They need a big. I guess the infrastructure might not really be there to do it, but it'd be nice if there was like a big spot people could go hang out in and stuff, and there was more food options, or maybe like wood-fried pizza or something like that, wood-fired, not wood-fried, wood-fired pizza. But a bit of a hot take. I do think it's overrated. I'm not a huge fan. I never want to go there when I leave. I'd rather do something else.
To stay true to the segment, let's turn to Reddit.
Here's one. Someone said Dartmouth is better than Halifax, which is interesting because the joke used to be the best part about Dartmouth is the view of Halifax. When done correctly, Donair pizza is better than just a standalone Donair. That's interesting.
Well, I agree with this one. Coltrane 999. I just don't see the appeal of living in Bedford. All the housing's pricey, crazy, and it all looks the same. Plus, it's a suburban hellhole where you have to drive to get anywhere. I can agree. We moved to Bedford because it was a sleepy little place, and now I cannot move. I will work 1.6 kilometers from home, and it frequently takes me 20 to 30 minutes to get to work. So,
damn.
Yeah.
Juggernaut Birdie said, all drivers in HRM should reset their driving test every 5 years.
Yes.
Because it's clear many have forgotten how to drive. It's concerning, to say the least. You agree with that?
I do, 100%.
Every 5 years?
I think everyone should have to reset it every 5 days.
Every 5 days?
Every Friday, you have a driving test.
Every morning before you go to work.
If you're shitty on one Friday, you don't get to drive the next week. This is a good one. I'm not going to comment on this because I support local business, but Benson Gilbert says bicycle thief is overrated.
I did see that one too. Yeah.
I'm not going to comment, but I respect their opinion to voice that.
Yeah, you know what? There's a few I've seen. I'm not going to list other. There's a bunch of other ones people say, "Oh, this is overrated. That's overrated." It's interesting. The weather is not better than other parts of the country just because it doesn't get as cold in the winter. That's not super accurate. I mean, our winters can sometimes suck. Halifax is actually quite pedestrian friendly in comparison to other Canadian and European cities I've been to. European cities have more pedestrian-only areas, but overall I find drivers respect pedestrians more here. Can you comment on that?
Disagree.
Disagree, eh?
Yeah, disagree. I think Europe prioritizes in this order pedestrians, bicycles, and cars. Here, drivers are just like, cars, and anyone else who happens to be on or near the road is a problem. Whereas in Europe, if I see, so I tell you, if you're going down, say you're doing 50, they use miles an hour in the UK, so it would be 30, but just say 50. If you see somebody's going, a cyclist is going down the road next to you, and it's 50 kilometers an hour, and they're doing 20 because they're a cyclist and they're going slow, and you have to just crawl behind them and you can't overtake them. Here, I've done this. People honk the horn at me. They're going crazy. Europe, people will just stay behind you for as long as they need to, and they'll slow down because they respect the fact that you're a bike. Whereas I find here in Halifax, they're like, you're an effing nuisance because you're in my way, slowing me down. So no, I disagree with that. This is one thing I do agree with, though, on this hot take thread on Reddit. HRM077 says not everybody here is broke, just the terminally online ones. And that's true, because if you hang around on Halifax Reddit, you would think that nobody in this city has any money.
I did like that one, actually. I was going to read that one out. So now I need a new one. Most of these about pizza.
See Mulcool's comment? They literally said, I think it's extremely funny that whenever questions like this get asked, 80% of the comments are about pizza. Maybe Halifax isn't so bad if most of our hot takes are about pepperoni placement.
So that was the Reddit roundup. There's a lot of hot takes. I actually got to the bottom, the very last. The very last one's actually kind of funny because the question is, what are your hot takes? And the very last one is from Professional I6905. Says, IDK, I live in Ottawa. Just straight up answering the question. I don't know. I live in Ottawa. I don't have any hot takes.
I've never been. Yeah. Well, we didn't say anything about the podcast there, which is good. But that was season 2, and we found our groove.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling like I want to shake it up in season 3.
So do I. I definitely think.
I think we've done 2 years of our regular stuff, and it might be time. We'll have to work with the wonderful team here at Podstarter, and I think what we do actually have a meeting booked, and we're going to bash our heads together. They're a lot more creative than we are, and see what we can come up with. But we will remind the people of Halifax, you can do more crazy shit, because we need content.
Season 3 is coming up. We need some crazy stuff. Do some crazy shit, all right? Go nuts, get a little weird, and do something stupid so we can talk about it on the next episode of The Matter of Fax. James, our guest, is here.
I can see his silhouette gracefully moving through the studio.
Who do we have today, James?
This is a crescendo. Our guest today is a crescendo. It gets
you
no better than
do
this.
The thing again? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying it is in the life cycle of this podcast.
He is okay. It's a crescendo. It's someone that I guess from the start, we always said this will be somebody we eventually want to try and get on the podcast. It's fitting for the season finale, bit of a trend for our season finale guests. And I must say, he was very accessible and very willing to come on and gave us a quick answer. And I think the same day we asked him to come on, we were booked. And he is in the studio and he is coming in right now. So we will go greet him.
So as everybody knows, for a season finale, we like to bring on a guest who definitely tops Alec and I, and tops every other guest we probably had that season. And we are honored to be joined in the studio today for the season finale of season 2 of the Matter of Fax podcast with His Worship, the Mayor of Halifax, Mike Savage. Mr. Mayor, welcome to the podcast.
It's a great pleasure to be here with you guys. How you doing?
We're good. We've been leading up to this interview for a long time.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Great. Let's get at it.
Let's get at it. And we just wanted to start, as we mentioned before in the preamble, we don't really want to talk too much politics. This is more of a community podcast. But if you just start to unravel not just your over a decade as mayor, but your multi-decades in politics, how do you even start to put a highlight reel together for that and look back on that time and pick out all of the great moments and the challenges too?
I never thought about a highlight reel. There's things that stick in my head that were important. I was a member of Parliament for 3 terms, mayor for 3 terms. I was in business before and between those. There's a lot of things I look back on fondly, and there's a few things I look back on as challenging. But overall, I've been well treated and well received, and I have very few complaints.
Great. And what is one thing that people would be surprised to learn that you learned as mayor, getting into the job, and then obviously being a wonderful public servant, looking back now? If there's that one thing you could tell people, hey, this isn't what you think, or this is better or worse, but what is that thing?
Well, the level to which people are interested in what you think about issues, including some that are inconsequential. When I was an MP, nobody asked me what I thought about who was playing in concerts in Halifax, So I think that people are, because there's only one mayor, I guess, the mayor gets asked to do a lot of things and to opine on a lot of issues that I never did as a member of parliament. That surprised me. The schedule is obviously pretty busy, and you have to be ready for that. But I think it's the level to which people expect the mayor to weigh in on stuff. In a lot of cases, I don't think it's particularly important, but you try to weigh in where you can.
Absolutely. And so I just want to go back to kind of what James said. It's been over a decade. You were elected in October of 2012. You announced this year that you will not be re-entering the municipal elections. Just kind of taking it back to when you were first elected, when you decided you want to run for mayor, was there a particular instance that led you to that decision to, I want to go at this thing, this is something I want to do, or was it kind of a natural progression from what you previously were doing?
It's not. In many ways, being mayor is more akin to when I ran an oil company for the Irvings. It's more of an executive position. Where you have to make decisions, take in information, as opposed to being a member of parliament where you're part of a team in Ottawa, and you get to make a little bit of influence on those areas that are your responsibility. I'd never thought about running for municipal politics. My father had been mayor of the former city of Dartmouth before he was a premier, but I had very little interest in municipal politics. I was a member of parliament. I thought that's where the big issues were. And in 2011, I was defeated in a close election in Dartmouth-Cole Harbour, and I said, okay, I'm going to go back to business. And I joined M5 and was enjoying that. But I just thought there was a lot of issues that the city had, more attitudinal than anything specific. There was very little development happening in the city. There wasn't a lot of growth. We were kind of stagnant, and I didn't think that we were ambitious enough as a city, and I thought some of that could come from the mayor's office. And that's why I started to think, you know what, I should run for mayor. A lot of people called me, said, think about it. I did. People across the political spectrum, people I had been on the other side of, people like, Alexa McDonough, for example. So it just occurred to me that municipal politics is really where shit happens. It's really where the rubber hits the road, and more cities are involved in the big issues of the day that people don't think about, like environment and human rights and immigration. So I just started looking at it and said, that's something I think I could help with.
And that sort of leads me into my next question. From 2012 to 2024, a lot can change in a year to 5 years. What are some of the bigger changes you've seen in Halifax, and of course you've been a part of, from when you started to right now, your final year?
Well, there's the physical built infrastructure of the city. There was no cranes in downtown Halifax when I was elected. There hadn't been significant building in the core of the city for a long time. One of the things I campaigned on was to rejuvenate downtown Halifax and then to allow that momentum to go outside of the downtown. And obviously that's not what the mayor doesn't do any building, but I thought I could help with the attitude of the city towards construction and good construction. So there's the physical side of it, but there's also, I started, I believe, to notice more vibrancy, more young people. We're one of the few cities that's getting younger now. Now, nobody thought that. The demographics were terrible for Halifax and for Nova Scotia, and we weren't growing. We weren't bringing young people here to live. We were bringing them to go to school. We weren't bringing them, they weren't staying here. And so that was an issue that we had to figure out collectively. So I think from a physical point of view, as well as a human point of view, we've seen a change in Halifax that's been more good than bad, and certainly has had its challenges, but more good than bad.
I've been here from Wales for almost 15 years and have seen the city change radically. You've worked and operated in both federal and municipal government. We'll ask this political question. What is the role of local government in all of this change that we're seeing? Because, if you troll Talk Bedford or you sit on Reddit for long enough, I find a lot of people's feedback is often directed at the wrong tier of government, or they're simply unaware of, where that feedback should go. I think one thing that I'm sure you've recognized as mayor is the importance of municipal government. Can you speak to that and how that's weighed in with the growth of the city?
Sure. Well, first of all, what part of Wales were you in?
Newport.
Oh,
I know your father hails from the same place. Newport boy.
Yeah. So we actually lived in, my father was born in Newport. We lived in a little tiny town called Mager outside of...
my father used to buy all of his cars.
Newport. Is that right? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Monmouthshire, south, yeah. The question was, what was it again? How
The question was,
mayor...
just with your experience at both federal and municipal government, what the role and influence of local government has been.
It's growing. It's growing, so, and, even things like the amalgamation in Halifax, and to some extent in Cape Breton, there's lots of people that would look at the negative of that, but it made Halifax a bigger, more important, more influential city. And it's given me the chance to meet cities and mayors from around the world. And I think the role of municipalities has changed over the last number of years. You see people like Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, who ran for president, one of the richest men in America, is investing in educating mayors on issues like environment and human rights and immigration, housing. So I think that mayors have taken their place. There's a book called If Mayors Ruled the World, which I actually looked at when I was running for mayor, trying to decide. It's important. People often say, well, the municipal government is the closest order to the people, and that's true. But in some ways, it diminishes the impact that governments have on big issues. If the city of Halifax, for example, hadn't pushed for housing, including affordable housing, going back 10 years, we'd be in a lot worse shape than we were. We were told it's not in your lane. But, you have to be prepared to step out, be cautious of, spending money that you don't have to spend, but playing a role in things like housing and immigration. That's important. People live here. In housing and homelessness, I've always said that the feds have the money, the province have the jurisdiction, but the cities have the problem. We have the problems. They all reside in cities. That's more and more where people are living. And that's not to diminish the role of, smaller communities. They have the same issues that we do. So I think you see the cities stepping up more. One of the great joys has been to be involved with the big city mayors of Canada, the Caucus of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and you get to talk to all these guys, the mayors of Toronto, Montreal, but also the mayor of St. John and Saskatoon. And we talk about those issues, and more cities need to be at the forefront of those big issues.
And how has your view of leadership changed over that time as well, particularly with that transition from federal to municipal politics and now going through your multiple terms?
Yeah, so I was, before I was federal, I was really provincial. My father was the premier, and I was very involved in his campaigns. I was very involved in running elections provincially. So I've seen provincial, federal, and municipal, and I believe in my soul that municipal politics is better. It's more pure. It's more challenging. We don't have the party system here. In most places in Canada, you have some municipal parties in Montreal, Vancouver, places like that. But we don't have Liberal, Conservative, New Democrat party system. So everybody's sort of a free agent. And that's the way it should be. So it's harder work to be a municipal politician than it is to be a federal politician. Now, the counterbalance to that is, as a federal politician, as I know, if people think your leader sucks, it's hard to get their vote, no matter what they think of you. Whereas municipally, we're all kind of like free agents. But you have to study. Our councillors do incredible amount of work. It's unbelievable how much work they do on a weekly basis just to get ready for council, let alone fixing the potholes that have to be fixed and cutting the grass and all those things. So I think municipal politics is great. I'd have a hard time going back to federal or provincial politics. I always say municipal is more frustrating, it's more difficult, it's more challenging, you have to think a lot, but I think it's better. It's more transparent, and it's more, and the decisions are made by people who make a decision based on what they've learned and what they hear at the council table. And I think that's a good thing.
And so I have a question, again, related on change. I love talking about change and development and watching us as a city and people improve. What would be, I guess, a piece of non-political advice? We're going to have somebody new into the mayor's seat come the fall. What's a piece of non-political advice, regardless of who that is, that you'd give to that person?
Well, I have that opportunity, either mistakenly or not. When I announced I wasn't running, I said, anybody who's thinking of running for council and mayor, I'm more than happy to talk to you. And I've talked to a lot of them. And I don't profess to be a great purveyor of advice, right? I always figure once I get my own life figured out, I'll help others. But if they ask me, I'll tell them what I believe. And what I look for in a politician is what I look for really in a business person or an NGO. I want people who are empathetic, first of all, who can understand other people's point of view, curious, not afraid to ask the questions, and that things have to be overlaid with optimism. So That's why I like, Obama more than I like Trump. I like people who have a sense of optimism, who can help to move things forward and not get mired in all of the negatives. Because, I remember when I first got elected, my old buddy Reg Rankin, who was a councillor, he said, Mayor, in this business, every time you help one person, you gore somebody else's ox. Like you got to, and there's some truth to that. So you can try to find solutions that please everybody. But if you're running for mayor and you expect to win, you better learn how to make decisions, because you don't learn that in a lot of other orders of government, because the decisions are made for you. But at the municipal level, you have to make those decisions. So that's what I say. Empathetic, curious, be optimistic. And when people come to you and say you should run for something, if you accept, then don't let them change your point of view after they've talked you into a race, which often happens. And the last thing I tell people, if you want my support, don't come to me and tell me that you're not really a politician. Because you know what? If you're any good at this game, you're going to be a politician. And you should be as proud of being a good politician as you are of being a good doctor or a good plumber or a good teacher. Because if you win, you're a politician. So be good at it. Be good at it. Don't be ashamed of the business.
Right. And I think regardless of who ends up in the seat, we're hopefully in good hands. And like you said, with your support and some of your guidance, and the city tends to always find a way. I mean, I love this place. I love living here. So in talking about the city a bit more, I did ask you earlier about those 10 years you were in office, 12 years you were in office. Where do you see Halifax going the next 5 to 10 years? What are we in store for? What other maybe new growths that we haven't seen yet might be coming our way?
Well, I think the city will continue to grow. We have now caught the attention of people around the world who we didn't have before. People are coming here because they see opportunity. There's a number of factors to that. We already had a building boom in the city before COVID happened, but when COVID happened, we went from having our growth largely done by immigration to all of a sudden people coming here from other parts of the country. They saw it as a safe place to be, and if you can work for anywhere, why not live and work in a place like Halifax or Moncton or some other parts of Atlantic Canada? And so the growth is not going to change. We're going to continue to grow. We should embrace it. We should accept the challenges that come with it, and we should knock them down. In the same way as, a dozen years ago, Halifax didn't look like it would ever attract people, and the Chamber of Commerce and all those people wanted growth. The president of the Chamber of Commerce came to me in 2012 when I was elected and said, our goal is that Halifax should be one of the top 3 growth cities in Canada by 2018. We were there by 2016. So we've grown. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the country. That's not going to change in the short term. So I think you embrace the growth, work with the other orders of government, and recognize the challenges. Cities across the country have huge financial challenges because the immense growth that's coming to a place like Halifax is paying off in a revenue way for the province and the feds, but it's not paying off that way at the city level, because the cost of that growth is being borne by cities, but the revenue's going to the other orders of government. But you know what? That's how it is. So you can cry about it, you can complain about it, you can sit in your office and put your head in your hands, or you can just move forward and do the best that you can to find reasonable ways forward. And it's the best job in the world. Being the mayor of Halifax has been amazing, and I love it. I'm not leaving because I don't like it. I still like it. I still like going to work. It's just, it occurred to me, not that long ago that when I was first elected, I was obviously the youngest member of the Big City Mayors Caucus. And now I'm the longest serving member of the Big City Mayors. And I don't think you should stay in the same job over and over again just because you like it. I think you have to recognize that jobs like this are best served by bringing in new ideas every now and then. And that's what I hope happens this year.
And your points there led me perfectly as we prepare to wrap up into my my next question here, which is, your schedule is packed. I wouldn't even want to start thinking what your Outlook diary looks like. People seem to want you everywhere all the time, and by virtue of that, you meet a lot of people. Is there a particular person or type of person that stands out as not your favorite, but some of the more memorable persons or people you've met? Now, everybody would think, okay, you met Barack Obama, you're gonna say that, but maybe if we put those world leaders aside, is there a type of person that every time you meet them constantly amazes you?
I meet a lot of mayors who I'm impressed with. I really do. And when I was in the House of Commons, I served with Bob Ray, who's a good friend who I have a great deal of regard for. I was elected to the House of Commons with Ken Dryden, one of my childhood heroes, the Montreal Canadiens. And when he comes here, we go out for a cheeseburger. You get to meet incredible people from across the political spectrum. But what I look for, without wanting to sound too repetitive, is I want people who are optimists. I want people that are challenge acceptors who understand that life isn't perfect. But ask anybody that works for me in my office, what's a Mike saying? It would be, don't let perfect be the enemy of better. Keep moving forward. There's a lot of people who died on a hill waiting for perfect that they never got. So move things forward. Something else I often say is amazing how much can get done when you don't care who gets the credit. And I'm not saying that I don't look for credit. Every politician I've ever known looks for credit, but I'm prepared to share it. I don't care if I speak first at a press conference or last. None of those things matter to me. What matters is, what are the issues we're facing, and how do we accept that challenge, and how do we get past it? How do we move? There's issues in this community of systemic racism. There's issues in this community of a lack of understanding of the importance of First Nations. There's issues in this community between those who want all kinds of development and those who don't want any. So problems are only problems until you solve them. And so I look for people who are optimists, who are curious, who can really understand in an empathetic way what people want. You can't please everybody, bottom line, but you can try to understand where they come from. And if you get somebody like that, and I've met a few, it's impressive.
One of the wonderful things about democracy is essentially you do a job that anybody can do, but at the same time, not everybody can do it, if that makes sense. The path to the seat that you're in takes an incredible amount of energy and slow garnering of respect of people and of the voters. So essentially, anybody can find their way to that seat, but it probably takes a special breed of person to actually be mayor. Can you speak a bit to just the incredible energy that takes? I'm sure it's a job where, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably haven't switched off in over a decade. Would I be right there?
You might be partly wrong, because I switched off to some extent during COVID because there was no events to go to. Like that was that was a terrible time for somebody who's a people person. And in terms of energy, people can take energy from you, but I will absolutely guarantee you, for me, I get my energy from people. And I realized that during COVID when I was home watching the Blue Jays or the Habs instead of being out and about at events. It's a busy job for sure. But if you don't like people, then do something else. You have to like people. You can't fake it. It'll catch up to you too quickly. So you have to make sure you like people. And if you do, then you get the energy. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't go home and collapse every now and then, when you've had 2 dinners and a reception and after a busy day. And I start early in the morning. That's always been what I've done in business and in politics. But you get the energy from the people. Like you really do. It may sound trite to somebody who's listening, but I can go to events tired and I can come out of them energized because I've been with folks, and it's like a battery almost. But it still accumulates. You still get tired at the end of the day. But this is a great job if you like people and if you accept challenge and if you're optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen your passion to kind of seep through into everything we've seen. The one thing, even people who don't know much about Halifax, is they tend to say, you guys have that really active mayor, don't you? It's one thing that we hear all the time from people.
Oh, big time.
I think we've been blessed to have that over the last decade. You agree?
Oh, 100%. And it's no secret you're going to be missed in the seat. Although I do hope we still see you at some events and the celebrity, the arthritis roast when you always get up. So we have
You've been to those? We
go to those, yeah. We love
Corey Bell.
Oh, yeah.
Those boys.
Yeah. We love going to those.
We think Corey was there. We didn't really see him, but we...
Have you done him on a podcast?
Actually, yeah, we have interviewed
our
Corey.
Live podcast.
We did a live podcast at the Atlantic Real Estate Forum.
Okay.
And Corey came along and had a chat with us. Always the gentleman.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, do you know who's going to be the roastee next year for the arthritis?
Oh, did they announce it?
They did.
It's you, isn't it?
It is.
It is you.
We will be there. We will be there.
I resisted the hell out of that because Corey
wait.
can go out and raise $400,000 and some and Jimmy and Don Mills, they do the same thing. But it's a busy job. There's no question about that. And I discovered early on. The other thing is, it's a liberating job. As a member of Parliament, anything I did had an impact on my caucus colleagues. I went to a conference once in Halifax, and I was asked a stupid question, and I answered it, and it was in the whatever they call the clippings in Parliament, and one of my colleagues said, "Why are you saying that?" But as mayor, one thing I swore I'd never do is dance in public, and I bet you I've done it 30 times. I mean, country dance, the opera. I danced at Neptune in front of 300 people with my wife. I sang in public. And so I think whoever becomes mayor, I would encourage them to just go with the flow. Like people I found a mayor who's not afraid to look stupid. And I've been good at that.
Well, you're human as well, and that's one thing I've always enjoyed in people, whoever they are, is when you humanize people.
Oh,
and Alec and I in our job, and one thing I always vowed to do when I got into this career a decade ago was just try to bring out the human in people. And when we're stuck in the thick of very complex real estate deals, there's a lot of money, and by virtue of that, a lot of emotion. I like to sort of try to bring the human side of people out. And it's amazing what you can achieve when you crack open the shell and get to the person underneath.
I think people like that.
Yeah.
And I think people like it if you're, like I've always said in life, don't let the things that you don't know how to do stop you from doing the things you know need to be done. I used to do a show on CBC once a month with Stephanie Demet, and people would call in. And I remember early on somebody had a question about potholes, and I said, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I'll go try to find out, but I don't know what you're talking about. And I think people like that. The other day they did a dinner for me in Dartmouth, Darren Fisher, and they showed pictures that hundreds of pictures of me as mayor, and I have done stupid things as mayor, but I'm not ashamed of that. Like I just accepted a long time ago, I'm a big, ugly old guy, but I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to try to help people that need a little bit of help as they go along, and I've been proud of that.
100%. So we talked a lot about your mayoral run and what you've done and the legacy you will leave. What's next for you? What's the next big thing?
Well, I'm going to go back to my office, and I've got a meeting at 2:30 and one at 3:30. Is that what you mean?
I meant like when you're done mayor.
I'm looking at some
Stand-up
different
comedy.
things. I've always thought I'd like to get back into business. That's a possibility. There's some things that I'm looking at there. If there was some, for the last 3 elections, people have said, oh yeah, Mike's he's going to be an ambassador, he's going to be a senator, he's going to be this, he's going to be that. That's never ever been offered to me or sought. But if there was some public opportunity, I would consider it. But I think most likely I'll go into business. I'm not going to run a company, but I would like to go into a place where I can use a bit of influence, open some doors, and I'm looking forward to the change.
Well, we accept your application to Cushman and Wakefield Atlantic, and the job is open if you'd like to join us.
You guys make way too much money for that sort of thing.
Well, Mayor Savage, we appreciate you joining us on the podcast. This has been a true honor, and we just wanted to sit down and have a casual conversation. I think we've achieved that, and it's been a lot of fun for us.
Well, thank you very much. I very much appreciate having a chance to chat with you and see you around, and thanks for the beer.
I wish.
Oh, that's water. Okay.
Gin.
Should have had some beers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for tuning in to the Matter of Fax podcast.
But you can get more of us. You can subscribe on any good podcast provider. You can follow us on Instagram at Matter of Fax Podcast. And for all that great feedback and abuse, you can send it by email to halifaxpodcast@gmail.com.
And of course, you can always find James Collins and I on the internet.
Please do get in touch, and we look forward to seeing you next time.